In this video, I'll answer the question, how do we process information and store it in our memory? Okay, so when you're in class and a teacher's teaching you something, what do you do to try to remember the information?
I just think about it, maybe think it over a couple of times, and then I don't really do anything after that.
Okay. Does it usually stick in your memory then? Do you usually remember it later on?
For the most part, yes, but sometimes if we don't review it or do anything, sometimes you forget it a little bit, so yeah.
This student has some ideas about how he can process and store information in his memory, such as by thinking it over a couple times and reviewing it. But most students, at any age, don't really know the best strategies to use to store information in their memory for the long term. In this video, I'll provide a brief overview of a memory model that can be used to help us understand how we process and store information in our memory for the long term. This video is part of the Psych Insight series, in which I explain educational psychology concepts. This is the information processing model that can help us understand how information enters, is processed, stored, and retrieved from our memory. Our mind doesn't work exactly like this, but this simplified representation can be very helpful to students and teachers in understanding some practical implications of the ways in which we process and remember information. Let me start at the beginning. Here we see how information comes into our sensory register from our 5 senses. Our sensory register is large and can take in a lot of information, but it only stays here for less than a couple seconds. For example, if you wiggle a pen or highlighter, as I'm doing here, you can see multiple copies of the pen before they leave your sensory memory. Although the pen has moved, its last location is still in your sensory memory, even though the pen isn't actually in that location anymore. Our attention is limited, however, so we can only attend to some of the information for processing. The other sensory input is lost from consciousness. Therefore, when you're trying to learn something, it's critical to pay attention to what you're learning and not pay attention to anything else that may distract you. What we pay attention to enters our working memory, where we can process it. Our working memory is what we're conscious of at any one time, and it's where we do our mental work. For example, it's where we think about things, such as how to solve a problem, or think about what we're reading. Our working memory is fairly small and can only hold about 7 plus or minus 2 items. By items, I mean 7 different things. For example, if you're trying to log into a website on a computer and they text you a code to enter with your computer password, you can probably look at the 7 numbers once and then switch to your computer keyboard and remember all 7 numbers. But if they give you 8 or 9 numbers, it becomes more difficult to do unless you can group some of the numbers together so that once again you're down to about 7 items. In this case, you could fairly easily group together the 1 and the 0 and call it 10 to make it one thing instead of 2, and then remember 385, 224, 10. Because working memory is small, it's sometimes called the bottleneck in the information processing model. It limits the amount of information that can enter our long-term memory. If we don't do anything with the information in our working memory, after about 5 to 20 seconds, it drops out of our working memory. To store something in long-term memory, we need to encode it. Some effective encoding strategies include repeating the information and making connections between new information and our prior knowledge, such as by organizing the information, by making connections among various pieces of the information, by visualizing the information, by forming a mental image, and by elaborating on the information, by using prior knowledge to embellish the information. Information that is encoded is stored in our long-term memory. It may stay here for a day, a week, a year, or even a lifetime. Long-term memory seems to hold almost an unlimited amount of information, so there's no need to worry about running out of memory. That doesn't mean we can always retrieve it, though, and over time, some information seems to be lost, or at least inaccessible to us. This process of information processing is overseen by the central executive, which helps us pay attention, think about things in our working memory, use strategies to encode the information, and retrieve it from our long-term memory. To summarize, We process information and store it in our memory by first paying attention to it. Then, we actively encode it into our long-term memory. Our central executive oversees this process and can help us more efficiently process and store information. Now, this is only a very brief overview of the information processing model. I encourage you to watch my other videos or read my book for more information. If you found this video helpful, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to my channel for more videos. More information about this topic is available at my website and in the Essentials of Educational Psychology book, which are linked in the description below. Thanks for watching.